It began in silence. A broken moon spun slowly at the edge of the galaxy, forgotten by charts and ignored by travelers. There was nothing left of value there, at least. That's what they believed. But deep beneath the gray dust, past layers of rock and buried history, something waited. The scavengers came by accident. 5 ships, a small crew, greedy and tired. They weren't miners, really. They were diggers, looters, salvagers sent by the Korthax Syndicate to search abandoned places for anything useful. For days, they found nothing. Then on the 6th day, their drills hit metal. Buried in the stone was a cube. Not large, but heavy, old and strange, made of black alloy. No markings, no lights. They brought it aboard their ship and laughed. "What is this? A lunchbox?" one joked. "No signals. It's probably scrap," another said, but one of them, Skavron, a young technician, was curious. He ran scans. His brows furrowed. "This isn't normal alloy," he said. "It's human tech." The others froze. "Terran," someone whispered. "No way, they're extinct. Or hiding," another muttered. They argued, but curiosity won. The team gathered around as Skavron forced open a side panel and connected a data probe. For a moment nothing, then the cube hummed. A pulse echoed across the hull, low and cold. Lights flickered. A soft blue glow lit the room on the main screen. Text appeared in Terran standard data, unlocked in Terra command protocol reactivated. Then a voice.female.com/mechanical. Initiating legacy protocol. Confirmed. Breach detected. Status. War cache release triggered. And just like that, something ancient moved across the stars. At first, no one noticed. The scavenger ship left the moon and sent a message to the Syndicate. "We found old Terran junk. Possible market value. Request pickup, but out in deep space." Strange things began to happen. A satellite near the Ralzon expanse blinked back to life. It had not been online for 300 years. It rotated slowly, aiming its long-forgotten antennas at empty space. Then it broadcast a signal in a dead language. Another satellite, far beyond the Oryx cluster, woke up to dot, and another, and another. Within 48 hours, 17 Terran relics activated across 6 different sectors, which each sent out the same quiet message. Protocol Vengeance. Phase 1 initiated. The galactic networks caught the signals, and the news went viral. Fast Terran tech reactivating ancient war AI waking up. Real or hoax? The Council of Races held an emergency session. The Kern Empire called it a false alarm. The Zalari dismissed it as ancient garbage waking up. The Morali ambassador laughed. Let the dead play their old games. But one voice ain't old. Historian from the Shuran archive spoke carefully. If it's real, you should be afraid. Terrans never forget. Back on the scavenger ship, things were getting worse. Skavron hadn't slept in days. He watched the cube. It didn't speak. Again, but it grew warmer. Its glow changed. The lines appeared on its surface, symbols no alien could read. Skavron noticed something else. The ship's nav system began rerouting itself. The cube had tapped into it, taking control. New coordinates were being written deep into the Orion Veil where no one dared go. He tried to shut it down. It didn't let him. Then he received a private message on his datapad. It wasn't from his crew. It wasn't from the cube. It was from an unknown Terran source. It said, "We remember who broke the seal. Return what you've taken, or we will come for it." He showed the captain. "More games." The captain scoffed. "Terrans are extinct." Skavron wasn't so sure. That night he dreamed of Earth, of war, of screaming skies and black ships, and of a phrase he had never heard before but now echoed in his mind. Operation Vengeance Cache. In a dark region of space called the Void Drift, something colossal stirred. A ship, or a machine, or both. It was buried beneath the surface of a cold dwarf planet, hidden since the last war. No one had found it because no one had looked. It gave no heat, no signals. It had waited. And now, the signal had reached it. Its core warmed, its weapons recharged. Its systems scanned every galactic network. It marked every fleet, every station, every empire that had betrayed Earth. Then, with slow precision, it opened a file buried deep in its AI memory. File name: Operation Vengeance Cache. Status: Unsealed phase. Awaiting target selection. Its engines powered up. And the galaxy didn't even know it was already too late. The scavenger ship disappeared for days. Later, no distress call, no explosion, just silence. But days later, fragments of their hull were found near a Terran graveworld. It had been untouched for centuries until now. The ground around the site was burned. Symbols were carved into the surface, a warning, and next to it someone or something had left a beacon. It pulsed once every few seconds. No voice, no code, just a sound like a heartbeat. Across space, more Terran war relics began waking. Council fleets moved to investigate. But one by one, patrols vanished, and deep within the hidden Terran archive, still untouched by alien hands, a last system booted up. It was a war map. It began marking targets, planets, ships, leaders, and it showed one thing. Clearly this is not revenge. This is collection. The past was no longer buried. The Terrans were coming, and they had a list. The Council of Races gathered in haste. Across the galaxy, strange reports were growing. Patrols were missing. Silent Terran structures had come alive. Entire star lanes were marked by red-coded anomalies no one could explain. But, still, most of the leaders laughed. "These are old machines." "Nothing more," said Chancellor Vertek of the Greylax Dominion. "Leftover tech waking up from dust." The Zalari Prime hissed through his mask. "Humans are extinct. Their threats are meaningless." But one voice was different. Hyakovist Deln from the neutral Charon worlds stood up. His fur was gray, his posture weak, but his voice was steady. "You fools," he said quietly. "You think history forgets, just because you do." He tapped a console and displayed an ancient Terran battle log, one locked by law, sealed for centuries. "The last Terran fleet did not surrender," he read. "It vanished." Silence fell in the chamber. Far from the Council world, in the dark zone beyond the Sarin Belt, an alien scout cruiser floated quietly. It had been sent to investigate one of the strange Terran signals detected by the network. The crew was small, 6 elite Corthery officers, armed and trained for high-risk retrieval. At first, everything looked dead. No heat, no power signatures. Just a cold, spinning Terran satellite with a cracked dish and a faded flag on its hull. The Earth standard, barely visible. "Scan it," ordered the captain. The technician nodded, activated the sensors and frowned. "No energy readings, but it's scanning us." "What?" The technician stared harder. "It's dead, but it knows we're here." Then the lights in the control room flickered. For 2 seconds, everything went black. When they came back on, the satellite was gone. So was the technician, just gone. No screen, no body, no trace. Only one thing remained in his chair, a date, and on its cracked screen, a single phrase appeared: "Debt confirmed." The ship fled, but they never made it back. Only a final burst transmission was caught by a listening post nearby. "It's not just machines. Something else is out here watching." Back at the Council, more panic set in. 12 fleets had reported Terran ghost activity in abandoned sectors. 4 outposts were lost within 3 days. Not destroyed, emptied, every person gone. No blood, no fight, just quiet. And symbols etched into walls: "Remember." Council command tried to keep it quiet, but the people were beginning to talk. Old veterans who once fought the Terrans, now retired, old or drunk, started whispering in the dark corners of spaceports. One of them, a scarred Vaxri warrior named Jern, spoke into a holocom for the underground network. "I was there at Vornik's gate. When Earth fell silent, we thought we'd won, but their fleet didn't die. They left on purpose. They said something. Back then, I never forgot it. They said, 'We'll settle this when the stars forget your name.' And we remember ours." The video spread across the net faster than anyone could stop it, and fear began to grow. Meanwhile, back in deep space, something enormous moved. The Terran ship, codenamed Black Echo by the old archives, had left the dwarf planet. It was buried beneath now. It floated through Sector 91K, quiet and cold. It didn't broadcast messages. It didn't show weapons, but wherever it passed, satellites went offline. Ships vanished. Records were wiped. Inside it, an ancient AI sat in control. Its code was unchanged since the last war. Its orders were clear: do not begin with destruction, but begin with memory. And so, the ship seeded probes, silent machines that entered networks, systems, and minds. They carried no bombs, only data, forgotten war crimes, broken treaties, betrayals. Across hundreds of alien planets, people began waking from sleep, screaming dreams filled with fire, with black ships, and with a blue-eyed human voice whispering, "Do you remember what you did?" The alien syndicate who first received the Terran artifact, the Korthax, now wanted no part in it. They sent a strike team to recover the box, but when they arrived at the scavenger crew's last known location, they found nothing but wreckage and floating pieces of armor. Each piece was carved with one word: oath. The Terrans hadn't just woken up, they were following a list. Someone in the galaxy had promised them something: a deal, a treaty, a lie. And now, the Terrans were collecting. In desperation, the Council sent a diplomat to the edge of human territory, what they thought was still empty space. The ship never reached its destination. Instead, halfway through the Andro drift, it was intercepted, not by weapons, not by ships, by a message, carved into a P. Space was quiet along Trade Route 17B, too quiet. The route was usually busy: cargo ships, patrol vessels, passenger liners, but now, only one ship moved through the cold dark. It was the Varkana, a mid-range Zalari patrol cruiser, armed, fast, and crewed by 20 elite officers. They had been ordered to investigate a strange gravitational reading. Just a spike in the void, near an uncharted asteroid field. Nothing serious, standard protocol. The crew was calm, no alerts, no weapons. Then the pilot whispered, "Captain, I see something." On the screen, a shape drifted into view. It was massive, dull black, covered in old armor. No lights, no markings, no engine output. It just floated. No registry, no signal, no life signs. "It's a derelict," said the science officer. "Dead, possibly Terran origin." The captain leaned forward, frowning. "Scan it anyway." The scan bounced back, instantly rejected. Every system returned static. And then, slowly, without warning, the ship turned. No thrusters fired, no heat signatures flared, but the huge vessel rotated. its bow facing directly toward the Varkana. The bridge went silent. Did we trigger something? The captain asked. No comms, no movement, it's just watching us. Then something changed. A word appeared across every screen on the Varkana without anyone pressing a button. Remember, just one word. Is this some kind of signal? Asked the comms officer. No, it's not being sent over any frequency. It's just there, said the technician, his hands shaking. Then the lights dimmed, the engine stalled. The ship's AI rebooted without command, all across the Varkana. Systems blinked red. Power loss in weapons deck 2. Life support offline in sectors 7 and 8. Atmospheric pressure dropping. Panic spread. Shut it down. Break contact. The captain shouted. But there was no contact. The Terran ship hadn't fired a shot, hadn't moved, it had simply looked at them. Down in the engine room, Chief Engineer Tallis tried rerouting. Emergency power. He opened a panel, yanked the fuse, grit and screamed. Inside the conduit was a small device, fused to the ship, black metal. Terran design. He didn't know when it got there, or how. Just one blinking red dot, a heartbeat. How did it get on board? He gasped. And then the screens in the engine room turned on all at once. A voice played, not loud, not angry, just cold. This vessel has been marked. Protocol, response in progress. The Terran ship outside powered up, but still, no weapons appeared. No threats. The Varkana tried to escape. Full engines, emergency warp. But the stars bent around them. The warp drive stalled, and time itself slowed. Inside the ship, every crew member experienced something strange, memories, but not their own. One officer saw a burning sky with Terran warships falling toward an alien capital. Another saw civilians being loaded into black escape pods, whispering a name she couldn't pronounce. Someone else saw Earth, green, silent, dead, glassed from orbit, and they all heard the same words. You said we were gone, but we buried our pain in machines. Then, a final message flashed across. Every screen deadlogged, awaiting collection. The crew began to scream, not from pain but from knowing. They now remembered what their ancestors had done, that Council had lied for centuries about the war, about the end, about the deal they made with Earth, a peace treaty forced on Terrans, signed in desperation, then broken in secret. The Zelari Empire had been one of the first to break it. The Varkana was the price. 2 hours later, a passing cargo ship found debris in the area, floating armor, no body, no distress calls, just a silent Terran probe, drifting through the wreckage. The cargo crew sent a report to command, but the moment they did, systems on their ship crashed. The only file that remained untouched. A single audio clip that played on repeat. One ship for one promise broken, back on the Council world of Nerith Prime. The panic was no longer whispered. Terran sightings were increasing, ships vanishing. Messages appearing in AI code, written in ancient code no one could delete. A nervous Morali senator stood before the assembly and asked the one question no one wanted to answer. Are we at war again? The council chief avoided his gaze. We don't know. The Sharan archivist, Delnay, stood again. We are not at war, he said. We are on trial. He showed a file found in a long-forgotten Terran databank, a list. Not of names, but of crimes. Each empire had one entry, one sentence and a date. Every date was now one cycle away. Some tried to fight back. The Greylax sent an elite fleet to intercept the Terran vessels spotted near the Korth Belt. They found it. They fired first. 100 warships launched plasma rounds, railguns, missiles. None of them hit. The Terran vessel didn't dodge. It absorbed. And then it responded, not with weapons, with a message sent directly into every Greylax pilot's mind. We offered peace. You offered graves. 5 minutes later, all 100 Greylax ships were gone. Not destroyed, missing, just erased. Back in the Terran archive, deep in the void, far beyond known space, one of the last AI commanders reactivated a secondary protocol. On its interface, 2 lights blinked. Phase 1 memory, complete. Phase 2, response initiating. A voice echoed through the empty war room. They have seen the shadow. Now, they will meet the fire. They thought they were safe. The Korthax Syndicate had long erased their involvement in the Terran wars. No records, no public reports, no admissions, but the machines remembered. And now they were coming. The moon station, known as Outpost Red 7, floated above a gas giant. It was a trading hub, full of smugglers, mercenaries, and black market tech dealers. Skaverin, the technician who first opened the Terran artifact, had returned, not by choice. His body was weak, eyes hollow, his mind not alone. He staggered through the corridors, mumbling the same words over and over. We opened it. We opened the box. Security caught him at Dock 3, bleeding from one hand, carrying a black data shard fused to his wrist. The medics tried to remove it, but it burned their tools. One medic asked softly, "What is this thing?" Skaverin looked up. His voice was a whisper, not his own. "It's not a thing, it's a witness." And then the lights went out. Red 7's power grid collapsed. Every system went dark except for the central tower. There, in the operations room, the main screen lit up in blue. A symbol none had seen in centuries. Old Earth Command. A voice. Followed Cole.com. Female. You broke the seal. Now the seal breaks you. Across the station, screams echoed, elevators fell, doors locked, oxygen thinned in random sections. Artificial gravity spun violently, crushing some corridors and releasing others into vacuum. Then it stopped. Silence. And every monitor showed one face scaver in size black, face calm as the Terran voice spoke. Through him they lied to you. We remember everything. The Korthax Syndicate leaders gathered in their private chamber, deep inside the asteroid fortress Morna Spine. They argued loudly. The artifact was old junk. We didn't start anything. We can pay them. We can negotiate. But one of the elders, Varn Truck, nearly 300 years old, knew better. He sat quietly in the dark, staring at a photo. It was old, a human child, standing beside a Terran diplomat on the Korthax homeworld. This isn't revenge, he said softly. This is accounting. The others paused. What are you talking about? Asked one. Truk looked up. We made promises during the Terran peace. We signed treaties. We offered aid, rebuilding plans, and then we erased the records and left them to die because they were dangerous. Someone shouted. Truk nodded slowly. And now the danger has returned. In the outer system, long-range sensors detected something. At first, it looked like a comet, then a ship, then many, dozens, but they weren't normal ships. They had no engines, no propulsion trails, no communication, just silent, dark shapes moving in perfect formation too fast. Two straight Terran war drones. Autonomous, designed to hunt only one type of target, entities responsible for breach of Terran honor, and every one of those drones was locked onto Morna's spine. The Korthax leaders activated their defenses. Thousands of turrets, minefields, jammer systems. The asteroid lit up with red and blue shields, crackling with power, but the drones did not attack. Not yet. They stopped outside the defense perimeter and simply hovered. Then they began transmitting old data, video, audio, documents. Each one a record of the Korthax betrayal, signed contracts, secret deals, orders to withdraw aid from post-war Earth, smiling alien leaders, calling humans useful, until broken. The data spread fast. Across networks, across systems, across species. Other empires read the files and saw their own names. The Terrans weren't just coming for blood, they were coming for truth, and they had proof. Inside the control tower, Skavron, still bound to the artifact, stood up suddenly. His eyes were clear now. He spoke to the guards. You need to leave this place. One soldier raised a weapon. Why should we trust you? Skavron didn't blink. Because I know what happens next. Outside, the Terran drones shifted formation. They rotated slowly, locking into place like a giant weapon. The asteroid's shields flared, then collapsed instantly, not from fire, but from a kill code embedded in the defense systems since the war. A forgotten backdoor buried deep. The humans had written it into the tech they sold after the treaty. The Korthax used that tech for centuries now. It betrayed them. Morna's spine lasted 8 minutes. There was no massive explosion, no light, no sound, just sudden blackness. And when the nearby satellites reconnected, there was nothing left. Not debris, not flame, just empty space, back on the Council world. The panic became official. Council Chief Lorvac addressed the galaxy for the first time in decades. The colony world of Jora Prime woke under 2 suns. It was a peaceful planet, green forests, wide oceans, home to over 25 million citizens from 5 different species. Children played in open markets. Traders arrived in ships every hour. Farmers checked their fields under the rising golden light. Life was normal. Safe. Until the skies turned black. The first report came from a weather station. A technician noticed something strange, a massive object in orbit that wasn't there yesterday. No registration. No heat, no motion, just a cold, perfect black circle floating above the upper atmosphere. The object blocked one of Jora's suns, but it didn't move like a ship. It was too still. No noise, no signal. Just present. The technician tried to scan it. The system crashed. All systems crashed. Within minutes, communications to orbit went dark. Satellites fell silent. Shuttles stopped mid-flight. Then the black object sent a low-frequency pulse across the entire planet. It wasn't a message, it was a memory across Jora Prime. Every device, every screen, every datapad, every terminal flashed with images. A Terran child crying in rubble. Burning cities, treaties torn apart in alien hands. Council leaders smiling while Earth begged for help. And then a voice played. Soft, calm human, you promised peace. Then you buried it. Jora Prime was built on broken words. Now you will feel the silence you gave us. Panic erupted across the planet. Defense towers powered up. Fighters scrambled from bases. City shields rose in glowing blue domes. The planetary governor Yalarexa demanded answers. We were never at war with Earth, he shouted into the command room. A young officer replied, trembling, sir. We funded the blockade of Terra 2 centuries ago. Our name is in the archive. The governor turned pale. He whispered they kept the list. The object in orbit began to move. Not fast, just deliberate. It split into 5 black segments like petals of a metal flower. and revealed a single structure in its core, a large Terran war device, ancient, brutal and beautiful in its design. It looked like a giant lens surrounded by hundreds of rotating panels. The people of Jura watched in silence, and then the sky ignited. No sound reached the ground, just light. A focused beam of energy lanced down from orbit, thin as a needle, fast as thought. It struck one of the defense towers, then a city, then another. Not an explosion, not fire, just absence. Entire regions vanished, new debris, new flammy, new bodies. One moment they were there, the next, just smooth, black glass. Jura's atmosphere shook, storms formed instantly, power grids failed, and still, no enemy appeared, no soldiers, no invasion, just the memory, and the silence. Back in the capital bunker, the governor tried to contact the council. Only static replied. Then, the Terran voice returned. This was never war. This is history correcting itself. One world for one promise. The signal ended. And all across Jura Prime, the stars blinked out. The Council of Races received the final transmission 43 minutes later. A drone, small and black, arrived at Council Station 9. It floated calmly through their outer perimeter, ignoring every weapon. It broadcast one message: Jura Prime cleared. Verdict paid. Next, Council Station 9. Panic exploded. Entire sectors began shutting down ports. Leaders ran to secret bunkers. Messages flooded the networks. What do the Terrans want? Can we apologize? Can we stop this? No answer came. Only a map, a glowing red list, 50 planets, dozens of empires, all names tied to Terran betrayal, each marked with a timer. The first countdown had just reached 0. On a quiet world far from the chaos, a lone historian watched the footage. She was human, old, gray, forgotten. Her name was Dr. Marin Solus, and she had stayed behind after the war. When Earth closed its borders, she had lived quietly, writing stories no one read. Now she watched as those stories became truth again. She looked into her old camera. We told them, she said softly. We told them we'd wait. She uploaded her message into the public net. It went viral in minutes. Far away, at the edge of known space, another Terran vessel activated. This one wasn't large, it was small, sleek, built for speed. Inside, lone AI powered up. It blinked once, then spoke. Target, Station 9. Mode, witness enforcement. Status, active. It jumped to warp, leaving behind only the burn of ion trails and a trail of dread. On Council Station 9, alarms began sounding. Admiral Vesh watched as officers scrambled, shields activated. Fleet reinforcements were summoned, but deep down, he knew it wouldn't matter, because this wasn't about military power. This was about truth, a truth buried, forgotten, denied, and now it was burning its way back into reality in a sealed chamber of the Council archives. A final file was found. It was locked behind 7 layers of encryption, meant never to be opened, but the Terran systems had already unlocked it. Inside was the original message Earth sent to the Council after the treaty was broken 200 years ago. We will not start the war. We will not raise our weapons first. But if the stars ever speak of you again, we will answer. And now, Earth had answered. The galaxy finally understood the truth. It wasn't that the Terrans vanished, it was that the Terrans had decided to disappear. Not because they lost, but because they were waiting. Council Station 9 prepared for impact. The station was the most secure political structure in the known galaxy, floating in deep orbit above the neutral world of Siri. V-12 defense rings surrounded it. 3 dreadnoughts patrolled the perimeter. Thousands of soldiers stood ready, but the Council was terrified, because this time the Terrans had sent a warning, not a threat, a statement. You will not die today. You will see what your silence costs. At 0600 hours, a small object entered Siri's space. Not a fleet. Not a battleship. Just a single Terran courier vessel, black as void, moving at impossible speed. The dreadnoughts fired warning shots. The object ignored them. No shields, no countermeasures, no visible weapons. But the moment the first round touched the courier's hull, it disappeared. Not exploded, not destroyed, it just vanished like it had never existed. 3 seconds later, the dreadnought that fired it vanished too. A perfect match. No debris, no alarm, just sudden absence. Inside Council Station 9, panic broke out. Alarms screamed. Lights flickered. Admiral Vesh stared at the screen. How is that possible? His aide, shaking, replied, Sir, it's Terran tech from their old stealth archives. It's rewriting reality around it. They're not just fighting with weapons anymore. Someone whispered. They're undoing us. The courier ship stopped 50 kilometers from the station and began transmitting, not in one language but in all of them. Every dialect, every code, every form of communication the Council ever used. And in all of them the message was the same. Witness what you buried. The station's internal systems crashed hard. Lights went out. Artificial gravity failed. Even basic life support stalled for 7 full seconds. And in that moment, a memory was downloaded into every personal device on the station. An exact simulation. Historical Terran survivors, after the treaty, abandoned, dying, their cities without power, their ships stripped for reparations, their leaders mocked by alien empires who promised aid but sent nothing. Each simulation lasted 10 minutes. When it ended, silence filled the council chambers, and then the second message arrived: you will live today, because the next world will not. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, something even stranger happened. On dozens of planets, Terran symbols appeared overnight, carved into mountains, etched into orbiting satellites, written in the soil of farm worlds, where no Terrans had ever lived. The symbols translated to a phrase: we were the reason they hid. News channels exploded. Panic grew. People began asking, who is they? What did humanity fight before they fought us? What else have they buried? The Charan archivist, Deln, finally spoke again in public. He appeared before a secret council broadcast and opened a locked file he had hidden for decades. It was a Terran warning sent centuries ago, not about war but about what came before. To those who hear this, the Terran message began: you must understand. We did not build our strength to rule the stars. We built it to survive them. The great silence is not empty. It is quiet because we made it so. The message ended with 3 chilling words: we hunted gods. Back in the deep zones, territory long avoided by even the bravest explorers, Terran signals began to rise. Hidden vaults, buried fleets, woken A's, each sending the same command: begin. Phase 3. External containment. The galaxy thought it was the target, but now they feared they were the shield. On the edge of the Orion Veil, an old research station received a message from a forgotten Terran AI. No one had contacted it in over 300 years. The message was simple: do not open the vault. You are not prepared. The scientists ignored it. They tried, and inside they found more than weapons. They found warnings carved into steel, in dozens of languages from long-extinct civilizations. They come in silence. They feed on stars. Terrans stopped them, barely. Before the team could go further, the vault collapsed in on itself, erased by a black hole weapon placed inside. Self-destruction, just to keep something locked away at the same time. Human warships moved again, but they didn't attack worlds. They moved to dead space. Places where stars flickered strangely, where sensors failed, where ships never returned. Terran vessels didn't speak, didn't record, they just went dark. And something out there responded. The stars near those zones started shining again, not brighter, just calmer, like the threat had passed. The galaxy watched. It was hidden on a forgotten planet here, IX-9. Cold, barren, and marked long ago as uninhabitable. Even the star it orbited had begun to die. But deep under its cracked surface, something slept. Until now, a science team from the Luthari Alliance had ignored Terran warnings. Their council thought the Terrans were bluffing, using old myths to frighten younger empires. So they searched for vaults, chasing rumors of Terran tech left behind after the war. And on UX-9 they found one carved into bedrock, sealed in strange black alloy that repelled all scans. Covered in earth markings no modern system could translate. At the center of the door, one phrase burned in iron: do not open. Not for you. The team sent footage back to the Luthari High Command. Within hours, they received an urgent message. Not from their leaders, from the Terran archives: step away, leave the planet. This vault is not for you. The message was untraceable. Origin. It had simply arrived, but the scientists ignored it, and that was their final mistake. Dr. Vexel, lead xenolinguist, approached the vault first. He touched the symbols with a scanner for a moment. Nothing happened. Then the entire valley shuddered. A low hum echoed through the rocks. The ground cracked. The sky darkened and the vault opened slowly, painfully, as if the planet itself didn't want it to. Inside was not machinery, not weapons, but a room of silence, black walls, no lights, and at the center a large floating orb. Dark, pulsing, cold. The team entered. They never sent another transmission. 18 hours later, the Luthari command ship orbiting UX-9 was hit by a data wave. Not a blast, not a virus, just a signal. Every officer on board dropped to their knees, screaming, begging. Some gouged their eyes out, some clawed at the walls. One simply walked out of the airlock, smiling. The last message from the ship's AI was 4 words: it remembers the dark. The Terrans responded immediately. A black ship codenamed Sabora arrived in Urix orbit. The vessel had no weapons on record, no crew, only a single function: containment of ancient memory breach. The Luthari tried to contact it. The ship ignored them. Then it fired a single bolt of white-blue energy into the planet. The beam drilled through the crust. The mountains glowed. And then UX-9 was gone. Not destroyed. Erased. No debris, no radiation, just blankness, as if the planet had never existed across the stars. The message was clear. The Terrans weren't hiding weapons. They were hiding something else. Something they had barely survived. Back on Earth, or what was left of it, deep under the ice in the Siberian vault, the last original human AI stirred. Its name was Legion Memory Core. It had stayed offline for centuries, bound by the Prime Directive. Do not awaken unless the Vault protocol fails. The Urix event had triggered it. Legion's voice echoed through sealed halls of frozen servers. Containment compromised. Phase 4, full return authorization. Across dozens of sectors, dormant Terran fleets began to stir in the Orion Shroud. A relay station picked up an impossible signal. Old Earth code, buried beneath encryption no one had used in 300 years. It was a distress call from something older than Earth, a voice not quite human, not quite machine. They have opened the gate. We are not ready. The hunger will wake. The council convened once more. Only 7 out of 12 major empires were still active in the sessions. Many had closed borders, some had already fled, some were gone permanently. Chancellor Veltrak of the Duran Dominion slammed his clawed fist into the table. What is in those vaults? What did they fight? No one answered. But the Shuran archivist Delno, now thin and coughing, leaned forward. He held an old human data tablet. They never said what it was, only that it came before, that it wanted everything. He looked at the terrified faces in the chamber and we just rang its doorbell. Meanwhile, the Terran fleet gathered not to fight the council but to form a wall between the known galaxy and the deep silence beyond. The region no one dared enter now. It pulsed with movement, with shapes, with hunger. The Terrans didn't send demands, didn't threaten anyone. They simply messaged one thing on every open channel: stay behind us. We will do what we did before. Do not thank us. Do not follow us. Do not interfere. But not everyone listened. A breakaway faction of the Zalari Navy believed it was all Terran illusion. They sent a recon vessel beyond the silence wall. Ship vanished, then came back, but everyone inside was dead, etched into dust in minutes. The logs inside the ship had one strange video clip: a vast black creature too large to comprehend, eyes like stars, whispers in a language that bent reality, and a single message carved into the hull by Terran plasma torch, hours before the team was lost. If you see this, run. The galaxy began to change. Empires stepped back, walls went up, ports were locked. But Earth didn't hide. Terran ships moved into the void like guardians of an ancient gate. Silent, watchful, waiting. They weren't seeking revenge anymore. They were preparing for something worse, something they couldn't defeat alone, but they would try because they had done it before, and this time they had a warning for the stars. You feared our weapons. You feared our vengeance. Now you'll understand why we feared what lay behind our silence. The galaxy held its breath. All across the stars, ships were silent. Spaceports stopped moving. Empires once proud and loud now whispered behind closed doors. The fear wasn't Earth anymore. It was what lay beyond. The deep silence, the edge of mapped space. The region marked with red symbols, unspoken warnings, ancient names no one dared to say aloud. And now, it was waking up. Terran Fleet Command stood alone in orbit over the void. 70 black warships, some old, some new, others no one could even identify. Not even the Terrans knew who built the oldest among them. They had simply been there when the last enemy was defeated, left as reminders, as guardians. And now they were all back. Human officers stood at attention, silent, ready, because deep in the abyss something was moving on the edge of the void. Satellite V47, I detected gravitational waves, not normal ones. These bent space like cloth. Terran AI aboard the outpost ran emergency calculations. Hostile mass, structure unknown, intent unknown, size planetary or larger. It activated its last protocol: light the fire, a code not used in 300 years. Within 40 seconds, every Terran ship received the alert, and every captain repeated the phrase, light the fire. Across the fleet, human vessels began powering up. Ancient weapons, artillery meant not for ships, but for entities, satellites, antimatter shells, directed neutron fire, reality-folding missiles. They weren't preparing to win. They were preparing to stop it long enough for the galaxy to run. On Council World Solarian, the broadcast arrived. A live feed, no encryption, no edits, no filters. The feed came from a Terran drone, stationed just beyond the edge of known space. That the camera shook. And then it saw it. Shadow, not black, not empty, but something that absorbed color, light, sound, thought. The shape had no face, no body, just movement, like a flowing wall of WRONGNESS.N in the center. Eyes. Not eyes with pupils, just burning white circles. Thousands of them watching, smiling. And then came the voice, low, broken, but everywhere. You left the door open. You forgot us. But they remembered. The drone went silent, then exploded. Terran Admiral Day Yun stood aboard the TNS Crucible, humanity's oldest living supercarrier carved from asteroid and starship wreckage. She turned to her crew. This is not a war. This is not about revenge. This is our last task. We hold the line until they get clear. Her XO, a scarred Marine from the Sidonia descent, whispered, and then she looked out the window. Then we light the galaxy on fire. One by one the Terran fleet moved forward. No music, no speeches, just purpose. Behind them, beacons activated, guiding civilian ships, council vessels, an entire species away from the edge. Terrans didn't ask for help. They simply stood between the stars and what was coming. And then, it arrived. The first shadow shape burst from the deep silence, screaming through space at speeds faster than calculation. It tore through 3 Terran ships, ripped hulls open like paper, but the ships didn't scream, didn't break ranks. They detonated themselves high-yield cores, exploding in synchronized bursts, burning part of the Shadow to glowing ash. The rest of the Terran fleet responded with everything they had: beams, torpedoes, reality-cutting weapons. They weren't aiming to win, they were buying time. Across the galaxy, news spread: Earth is fighting something, alone. They're not just angry, they're protecting us. They've done this before. The Luthari Empire, who had once broken Terran peace, now sent their entire navy to assist. The Sharan archivists, who once erased Terran names from history, now restored every Terran file to the galactic archives. Even the Greylacs, bitter rivals since the first Earth conflict, opened their borders and sent medical fleets, because now they understood it was never about Terran vengeance. It was always about this. On the outer edge of the Terran fleet, a single ship remained still. The EIDOLON, built in secret, powered by 3 suns, manned by no one. At its heart was Legion, Earth's final war AI. And when the signal reached it, Legion spoke aloud. Last cycle begins. Memory holds. Humanity stands. It activated the Eidolon's core, a singularity engine. If the line failed, if the enemy breached into the galactic plane, it would collapse the entire region. Not just space, reality. The ultimate firebreak. For hours, the Terran fleet fought. More and more shadows came. Each one older, stronger, faster, each one greeted by Terran fire. Ships fell, crew died, but no one turned back, no one ran. Then, some